Hello, my narcissistic abuse family. I have a great topic. I've been dying to make this video since I learned about it myself. And it was all sparked by, I think it was an Instagram post maybe, or a YouTube video, but I was like, oh my goodness, like I was there. And I'm untangling my necklace, I shouldn't do that. And sure as heck, the enabler is there, with my narcissistic mother. So it's about being addicted to a narcissist. Yeah, you can definitely find yourself addicted to this toxic individual that is wreaking havoc on your life and hurting you over and over again, but you just can't leave. It's because you're addicted. It happens. It's a legitimate thing. So I'm going to say, normally when you speak about people, they use the word obsession as opposed to addiction. Addiction will typically apply to chemical addiction, drug addiction, prescription, sex, something tangible of that nature, as opposed to a actual individual, an actual human being. But for the purposes of this video, because we don't really look at narcissists as actual people, it's more like an addiction because they're malicious as heck, they're terrible to us, and we just get locked into this awful cycle. And I found myself there 15 years ago with the narcissist that I was engaged to. It's like, I've said this, I consider myself an intelligent person, emotionally, mentally, psychologically speaking, but I found myself in the worst dynamic with this creep. It was so volatile, such a volatile situation. It was a breakup, every other week was something. And I was like, I just couldn't get away. I couldn't get out of it because he, mind effed me, and had me believing that, I needed him, that I couldn't survive without him. So, good for him. He got that over on me amongst a million other things, but... So, when typical, research is done relating to addiction, they can see physiological signs in the brain. Certain areas will light up and neurotransmitters will respond to the stimuli, which is the object that the person is addicted to. But they don't do that kind of research with narcissists and toxic domestic violence relationship, things like that. But from our experiences, we absolutely can attest that this is a real thing. So many people can vouch for the fact that, they were crippled in this terrible relationship, in this toxic dynamic, and we just couldn't get ourselves out of it. So, and I see this with my toxic duo set of parents as well. I've always been I talk a lot about this. I've talked about the enabler and how I've tried to approach him, numerous times throughout my life. I thought that I could maybe, get some sensible reaction from him, speak some sense into him, how do you not see how wrong you're treating me? The narcissistic mother is treating me. How do you sleep at night? How do you do that to your own daughter, your own child? But he absolutely mindlessly follows her. And I see in him this tendency for addiction. You know, they say people have addictive personalities. The enabler, the henchman, absolutely has this. So the narcissist has the ideal situation with him. She has him hook, line, and sinker. All right, so we often become aware at some point that continuing this relationship is not in our best interest, but we just can't stop. We just can't walk away, regardless of how awful it is, how bad we feel, or the consequences rendered from staying. It's a persistent need and longing to feel wanted by the narcissist, to the point where we will persist in self-destructive behaviors that we wouldn't otherwise. It's comparable to an addiction, this obsession, they say, with a person, but it's absolutely an addiction. So signs and symptoms of an addiction would include an inability to stop using or engaging with the substance, an addiction that continues despite awareness of serious harm, withdrawal symptoms, social, financial, recreational sacrifices, unpredictable and unstable behaviors, secrecy and denial, and behaviors that inhibit your normal life functioning. These are characteristics of an addiction. So examples of these behaviors when applied to a narcissist would be a preoccupation with thinking about, longing for this person, this relationship, long after it has ended, to the point that it impairs your normal life functioning. Number 2, continually re-engaging with the narcissist after repeated breakups, regardless of the amount of harm suffered or the amount of time that has passed. I was in that wicked repetitive cycle, pattern. I was there. I was like, at that time I was in my young 20s, so thankfully I was still pretty resilient, but I was very much in this toxic addiction to this jerk. Okay, so you have a pervasive feeling of heartache, sadness, depression, and worthlessness. Yes. You continue to engage with the narcissist while being fully aware of the emotional, psychological, and or financial harm that's being caused by this person. You can become consumed with thoughts of reconciliation, getting back together with them. You constantly check your phone and email any source of previous contact, and you keep doing this like every few seconds or minutes in hopes that there's some contact that you might have missed from this person. You drop everything at the first sign of their potential interest again, and you allow yourself to be used or manipulated in any way after previous abuse or harm. You put up mild to no resistance to mistreatment. So you'll ignore friends and family because you know they would not approve of your behavior, and you will cease to engage in normal behaviors that you enjoy and able to be available to the narc, like at their whim. If they summons you in some way or if they reach out to you, you're there, like in a flash, in a heartbeat, shadow of a hot second, you're there. You're like always accessible to this person. It's you can't explain it. Like I can't, I'm trying, but like I said, I was in my young 20s And I got so caught up in this toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship. I've said this before as well. At the time, I was, getting my master's degree. I had an awesome job, but I did not put two and two together. I was getting my graduate degree in psychology, ironically, and I still was not able to put this together. That, like, narcissistic abuse, narcissistic personality disorder in a book is very different than the application of it in the real world. When you're actually living this abuse, this toxicity, it's nothing you learn can prepare you for it. So most of us will experience, periods of sadness, heartbreak after a breakup. But the difference here is the degree and the duration, like following a narcissistic breakup. And the thoughts and behaviors become an addiction when you cannot control them. When you're just ruminating, you can't. Gino, stop. It's my dog, sorry. Quarantine situation over here. I'm just trying to crank out a video while my husband playing zombies with the kids in the basement. So, also, you cannot stop your thoughts, and the hurt has extended long beyond normal healing times, and you cannot stop yourself from re-engaging with this person. It's, it, I knew it, you just know you got to get away, but you just can't stop yourself. And they have caused you repeated harm, and you know that the result this time will not be any different from all the other times. So, the solution here is no contact. And I did this, you guys, like, through none of my own doing. It was not my choice. This creep actually ghosted me. He discarded me. And finally, because, we're black sheep, we speak up for ourselves. We are always, speaking out against injustice. We are the justice seekers. We are the truth tellers. And so, thankfully, my black sheep conditioning prepared me for what this jerk was going to do. I guess you could say. I actually, at that point, I remember I was just so exhausted and just broken down. And he left me nothing. He left me no crack of hope whatsoever. Like, I even called his mother to talk to her. And he had already gotten to them, obviously. And, painted me out to be some type of harlot, villain, whatever he needed to do to, set up his smear campaign against me, to triangulate, to preserve his own reputation, vilify me because he's the one that ended it. Anyway, but he ultimately initiated the no contact. He wouldn't take my call. We were actually living in the same house. And he took all of my stuff and just threw it in the living room. And I went back to the toxic narc domain that I grew up in with the toxic duo. So I went back from there. But I did come back to get my stuff, which was all thrown in the living room. But anyway, in hindsight, I have said this. Best thing this jerk ever did for me was to get out of my life, discard me, cast me aside, what have you. But no contact is the best solution for this situation. I know some of you might be like, I have kids, I can't do that. I will get there. But if you are able to go completely no contact, that's the ideal resolution to this issue. You don't want to be a part of the narcissist's harem, which is just one of their cronies, one of their followers that they enlist to, follow them, boost their egos all the time. And in hindsight, again, I say, Like, no doubt he had a narcissistic harem with, you know, other females that he was, you know, entertaining, enticing, seducing, whatever. He had a whole group because he moved right on to the next after me. Probably moved on while I was still with him, but he's gone through several women. After me, you know, he did have children with one, but you don't want to be a part of the narcissist's harem. That is a group of admirers, like followers, that will just, you know, tolerate their crap and their poor treatment. You don't want to be one of them. You want to go no contact. The reason for no contact is because you might go, oh, by the way, you might go through withdrawal symptoms. You'll struggle every day, but no contact is equivalent to going cold turkey. The law of addiction states that administration of a drug to an addict will cause reestablishment of chemical dependencies upon the addictive substance. So, you've heard the term, once an addict, always an addict? Yeah, that's applicable here too. Once you're addicted to this terrible person, you'll always be addicted to them. You can't just, you know, deal with them in small doses. No contact is the best solution here. There was another, there was something else. There's so much information on this that I want to share with you because it's so good. You know, I love psychology. So one of the studies that was done at some point, I don't have references on this, I should, but I'm just telling you because it's so good. So there was studies done on intermittent reinforcement, and that's when, like, the rats would press a bar and they would get rewarded with food or some type of treat. So when the rats would press the lever and they would constantly be rewarded every time they pressed the lever with a treat, they lost interest. But when they pressed the lever and they did not get a treat, stop! And they did not get a treat every time, they were more likely to continue the behavior, continue pressing the lever. So that's like us. You know, these narcs, they starve us of love and attention, but every once in a while they'll give it to us. So we just keep seeking that. We keep seeking that reward. So it's the equivalent of that experiment, kind of. Like, we don't always get rewarded. We're pressing the lever over and over, and the tree doesn't always come down, but sometimes it does, and that's enough to keep us hanging on. So I thought that was so interesting. So you gotta go cold turkey, no contact. That's the only way to heal yourself from this. And then ultimately, enough time away, you'll start to feel in control again. You'll feel good about yourself. All it takes, though, is like one text message, one social media thing, whatever. That's what used to happen to me with this jerk, is that, like, we would email or whatever, or phone call or something, and that's it. It was back on. It was this on again, off again, on again, off again. This went on for like 4 years. So the struggle is real. But you cannot beat a narcissistic addiction while still maintaining contact to this person. Okay, so if you have children with this person, you have to navigate it very strategically. So whenever you interact with them, you keep it to child-related information. You don't ever, like, speak about anything outside of your shared interest, which is the children. If you really have to. So don't engage in any discussions other than the care of the children. Don't engage in anything, even if you're dying to. especially if it's to defend yourself or something. Just walk away with your head held high, knowing that you're the better person and you have integrity and you would never treat someone as horribly as you were treated by them. So the other thing is, if you can't navigate that on your own, enlist someone to help you, like a family member or the court or anyone that spares you from having to engage with this person. So if you need to enlist a third party to deal with, your exchange of the children or anything pertaining to the children, do that. The best point to get to is indifference. Have you ever heard that? Like, the opposite of love is indifference. It's not hate, because hate, entails emotions and passion, but indifference is just a lack of emotions towards this person. So that's where we're trying to get. I mean, I'm definitely there with the ex, that creep from forever ago, but this absolutely resonated with me. And I was like, this is so beneficial for you guys, because you think you're going crazy, but you're absolutely not. It's just the narcissist. This is what they do to us. And I applied this as well to the toxic duo. I was always like, why? Why is he so irrational? And why is he so cruel, just as she is? Like, I'm the daughter. Like, I'm approaching you. I'm trying to communicate and make headway. I didn't have a shot in hell because he's so obsessed, trauma bonded, codependent, all of that. But more than anything, I think he's like so obsessed with the narcissist. So good for us. We're learning about all of this, and knowledge is power, and that's how you extract yourself from the toxicity and the toxic dynamic. So I feel you. You have my heart. If you were in a relationship with a narcissist, it's so hard. It's easier said than done with all this stuff. But as long as you learn about it, back 15 years ago, I went to Barnes & Noble. I got a ton of books, self-help books about relationships. Narcissistic abuse was not even a blip on the radar at that time. But I learned about controlling people and manipulation, and that the silent treatment is a form of abuse. And it just all snowballed from there. And I was like, yes. And it's very empowering to arm yourself with this information, to know that you're not crazy. You've been gaslit this whole time. But really, we're intelligent, we're strong, we have everything we need to carry on with our fabulous lives. We're bumped and we're bruised, but more than anything, we are blessed because we have this compassion and this understanding that some people might never know. So, all right, guys, I love you all. Thank you for watching. I hope you took something meaningful away from this video.